Hi, this is Carl again, also known as Zarepath in the Custom Magic community, and we're here to look at more custom magic sets that are up for rotation for custom standard. We're coming up on the back half of that now, so there's about 4 sets left to look at, and the one we're looking at today is Iron Horse by CyberChronometer. Iron Horse is very interesting. We've had other Western sets we've looked at like High Noon. Laredo was in custom standard a while ago. That's a famous Western magic set. This takes a different tack. It's not just Western, it's Western mixed with Asian, and it's based on kind of the building of the Transcontinental Railroad and that kind of merging of cultures. And so we're going to look through it and just give some general thoughts and talk about cards that stand out. First white card, Planeswalker Deputy Marshal Headwind. It's a 3-coster. The +1, I didn't like how it doesn't really prevent damage, but it does remove it. Like, it does give you card advantage. Second from the top at end of combat feels a little particular. I wonder why it's not just the very top. I guess because then you could +1 it forever and remove all variants from the game. So yeah, I do like second from the top best. And then the -2, you can straight up get card advantage from that. Just get rid of a creature, and it does help them gain life. But I don't know. I could see this being very strong. I would use this in a controlling deck that's worried about creatures attacking it, because even though it can be easily removed after you get rid of the creature, at that point you're getting kind of a 2-for-1, either with life gain as the second card advantage, or they're using another removal spell and it's just a straight up card. The -6 is a fairly strong emblem. I could see it just costing white, to be honest. Like, if this is the ultimate, you still have to use all your mana each turn to prevent them from doing things. So, but yeah, that's a strong card. I like how careful they were with the +1 design. This is, from what I hear, one of the only new mechanics in the set. It's projects, and it uses kind of the leveling template from Levelers, except it's only on enchantments, from what I can tell. And you can't pay to upgrade the progress of your projects. They trigger from other things. So it doesn't do anything when you first play it. You have to cast some additional non-creature spells to kind of activate the enchantment to start giving you your constructs each turn. And then once you cast enough of them, then it becomes even better. You get 2 of them instead of 1. It's hard to tell how these are, because I think they'll only see play in decks that specifically build around them. It's kind of unfortunate that they don't do anything when you first play them. And I think that's kind of a design issue with them only getting upgraded through triggers, as opposed to you being able to pump mana into them like you could the Levelers. Players have no feeling of agency and control outside of how their deck plays out. And it would really suck to have 4 non-creature spells after this, but not your 5th. Or after this to have 1 non-creature spell, but not a 2nd. And I can see that situation happening a lot of the time. So that's my feeling on projects generally. I think card by card, there's probably some that would see play in Custard just because, in Constructed you can build your deck very tightly around the effects you want. But even then, there's just a lot of variance in making sure you can hit the triggers you need, and also timing of sometimes you need your cards to do something immediately. Fearless Outrider might be something that sees play in a white aggro deck just to... Oh, more Scout Tribal. There was another set that had scouts. I think it was High Noon had some scouts. But, something you can play and immediately give value to your other creatures. This is one way you can add progress counters, though that's probably not going to see play in Constructed. It's more of a limited thing. Oh, so this exiles anything that gets in its way, and then they get a land. So it paths anything. That's kind of cool. I like that. One thing to note about the set, this is more an aesthetic thing, but it hasn't really upgraded to the new mainframe templates of done by Cajun, actually, who did the High Noon set we looked at recently. They have the nice legendary flare that was introduced with Dominaria in the frame, and it doesn't have the the flavor text bar that separates the flavor text from the regular text. Those are aesthetic things that people can argue about how important they are or not. For me, it's a sign of polish and making sure your set is as close as possible to professionally made Magic sets. So for me, it does mean something. Okay, there's a rare project. Oh, this is a sideboard thing. This is interesting because your opponent is the only one who can trigger it, and so they end up kind of punishing themselves by casting lots of non-creature spells. And then, once they cast a certain number of them, they just can't do it anymore. That's really funny. It's an interesting sideboard against a storming deck or against control. Yeah, I could see this seeing play out of the sideboard of an aggressive deck. Oh, this just gets bigger forever, and it lets you play enchantments from your hand. I guess that works well with projects, but also other enchantment synergies. Interesting. Feels weird for a 1-drop to just infinitely get better no matter what, with additional synergies. Like I could see this seeing play without any other bonuses, like if that line of text was just completely gone. So I'm not sure I like the design for that reason. Just a 1-drop having such a huge potential power, regardless of other things you do, right? So Champion of the Parish and Experiment 1 at least require your deck to be doing certain things. You just have to wait and it'll just keep getting bigger. Okay, that seems fine. The perennial 2-1 for 1 with minor upside, often against graveyards. I mean, that would be useful against Isemerge. Okay, so this one this one will just happen over time, beginning of your end step. I hope all the commons are like that for the sake of limited. It just seems like the most simplest adaptation that probably feels the least bad. The simplest implementation, I should say, not adaptation. But probably not going to get there with constructed because you have to sacrifice this just to get 2 things. Whenever this blocks or becomes blocked, you gain 3 life. We used to have a card like that in the first iteration of Custard, and it was a 3-1, but it was whenever it entered the battlefield or attacked or blocked or something like that, you'd gain 3 life. And so you could just get tons of life from it. This is somewhat like that. Maybe enough to see play in sideboards, but maybe not. Because you don't get the immediate life gain, which can be important if you're facing a more burn-focused aggro deck that can just stop attacking and burn you out. Hate for rogues. Consult the Stars is interesting. Is this like that puzzle card from Dragon's Maze? You look at you reveal the top 4 and you can take 2 non-creature cards. The problem is sometimes you need the lands. Pieces of the Puzzle, I think is what it was called. Sometimes I think that saw play in some Storm decks. I'm not sure. This has synergy with artifacts. If there's a blue-based artifact aggro deck, like this would see play along with my Metropolis set because I have a blue-white artifact aggro archetype that focuses on artifacts entering the battlefield, making the creatures bigger. Oh my goodness. This is really good. This would be really good in an artifact-based control deck. Blue Planeswalker, I don't think this one's strong enough to see general play. The +1, you gain control of a creature, but it's kind of just the same as if you were to freeze it, which I believe is what Tamiyo does at 5, which being able to do this at 4 is pretty good, although you can't target lands like Tamiyo can. And if you have sacrifice outlets, gaining control of their stuff is pretty nice. Or if they have special abilities you want to use, that's pretty nice too. -1, you can find a card, but you can only put it 3rd from the top, which is a little weird. Like, you'll eventually get it, but not immediately. So kind of a bit of a strange design. Uh, I'd be interested to see what kind of decks this goes in. Whenever a spell is countered. So this is a control-focused one that wants you to counter spells. Uh, these make for interesting build-arounds, but I still am suspect on them just because you have to counter... I guess you only have to counter one spell to start getting the free scry, which is pretty powerful. Problem is, can control decks afford to run things like this that aren't worth a card for a while and don't stop or interact? I don't know. You can tap things and get a gold. Being able to get a gold at 2 mana for instant speed can be pretty powerful. Like, this might be better than it looks. It might not just be a limited card. If you're in control, being able to fog and get a gold is pretty good. That is awful. I like this. You specifically name a creature and it won't untap. So, you do that in response to them having already attacked. You pick one of their tapped creatures. And if they've gone wide on the same name of creature, it gets better. I think this is a fine design. Whenever you draw extra cards, okay. Oh, and so instead of drawing cards, you can mill yourself 2, and if you do, you get a bird. That actually works well with the Planeswalker. If you put something third from the top, your next draw step, you just make a free bird instead, and that puts that card you wanted at the top. And then maybe if you have another way to draw a card, you can then get that card. It's an interesting design. I don't know that I like players losing draw steps or having the tools to lose the draw steps, because that just makes gameplay more not variable enough, not diverse enough, more repetitive. But I mean, it's a real cost. Scholar of Wings. This is like Delver, except you have to have 7 or more cards in your graveyard. So a little bit of threshold in this set. So 7 cards in graveyard is quite a lot. If a format has fetches, it becomes a little easier. But yeah, it seems like a fine design. You can bounce something at sorcery speed, but then you can exile this into a bird if you want later. I kind of like 1/2 bird tokens as opposed to the 1/1 birds and 1/1 spirits. I think having them be 1/2 flyers is just a nice little difference that the set has. Seems like there's a lot of progress counters. Or progress projects in blue. Oh, wow. Draw 2 cards, then you can put an artifact from your hand onto the battlefield. So that would be a combo piece. What are the biggest artifacts that you can cheat into play? And then you don't lose card advantage from this either, which is fun. And you can do it at Flash also. I know Metropolis has, a big 7/7 indestructible artifact. In custom standard right now, I think there's some big artifacts that'd be exciting to play out, like Souljet maybe. No, Souljet's not in custard right now. Anyway, interesting combo piece there. Okay, so some self-mill, so that helps with the threshold theme, but it also helps the artifact theme. You get to get card advantage of artifacts. I like that support. Alright, Raid has returned. This allows you, if you're an aggressive deck, to destroy stuff, but only after you've attacked, which makes this a bit more situational, but the Raid is very attractive. Oh, so you can pay 4 to Diabolic Tutor this, unless you used Raid, and then you can just play it normal, and then wait for it to die to get the card you want. I like that design. This one asks you to lose 3 or more life. So it's an interesting one in that it doesn't affect the board immediately, and if you're behind, you're likely to lose 3 or more life each turn. So if they deal 3 damage to you on the following turn, on the next turn you're going to lose a life, but you get an extra card. The problem is, how often do you want to lose 3 or more life in a turn? Not often. I could see this as 2 or more life. That's probably where I'd put it, so it doesn't just self-trigger on that, but it feels less like a way to accelerate your loss just with more cards in your hand. Okay, the black 2/1 for 1. Oh, it sacrificed an attacking creature to return it from your graveyard to the battlefield. That's an interesting requirement and restriction. I like it. This could be interesting. Maybe I put this in mono black control. Something to eke value out if they don't have blockers, and I play this before they make creatures, or something to trade with whatever they play with. I don't know. Target blocking creature gets -2/-2 until end of turn. So this is to help you be more aggressive. I don't know if that ends up seeing play in constructed. Destroying tapped creatures, and you might get a gold from it. I don't think that quite gets there. Okay, so this you can control just by attacking with creatures, and that'll make them eventually discard cards. So if you have 2 creatures able to deal damage, I believe you get 2 progress counters, and then they start discarding cards every turn. I feel like there's a weird design in that it'll take a while to get up to 5+ progress, and at that point they're heck bent already, and they're probably playing each card they play, and so the bonus of making them discard at random won't be as pronounced. This feels like a weird mythic. Oh, it returns them to the battlefield, not your hand. Okay. Okay, so this, it's harder to cheat out something big, but you can cheat out multiple things. It's weird for a reanimation spell to ask you to be attacking. I like that adds dimension to the typical reanimation style deck, but I don't think it fits the design well. In fact, this is sorcery speed, and it has a condition of legendary creatures existing, possibly stopping it. Makes me think this wouldn't see much more play than as a 1 or 2 of, I think. If it also hit planeswalkers, it would definitely see play. Yeah, too slow. Oh, this could be big. For 3 mana, it's better than Fling. I mean, better than Thud, I should say. You don't have to sacrifice it, and it's sorcery speed. I mean, for 4 mana, you can take out a creature and hit face, or take out 2 creatures. This is pretty strong, I think. Huh. This lets you put it on top of your library after you cast it. The fact it costs 3 mana makes me question if the decks that want lots of burn want a 3 mana burn constantly replayed to the top of their library, or if they just rather draw their 3 mana deal 4, or, 1 mana deal 2. This feels like a combo. Oh, when it attacks this turn. Yeah, this isn't getting there. Interesting design for limited, though. I like it. Oh, this could be big. You get 2 gold when you play this 2/1 for 2, just as long as you've attacked with something. I could see this in a red deck, that has reliable 1-drops, so that you can hit this on 2 and immediately get big ramping with that gold. This is part of what I was talking about with Heirloom, where I think custom designers don't realize just how strong and color pie bending gold and treasure can be. Yeah. Also, a note that the gold tokens in here are different from treasure, and that you don't have to tap them uh, to get the mana from them. You just have to sack them. So you can actually keep them around and tap them for other purposes, other designs that ask you to tap things, such as Tithe in Erelu, or Improvise from that one set, Ether Revolt, or Runes of Dohru, which we haven't looked at yet, has Runic mana, which you can pay by tapping artifacts. So this would be gold combos with that in ways that Wizards of the Coast was afraid of when they had Improvise and Treasure in the same set, and so they had Treasure instead of gold. So that's something to be aware of with the gold in here. And I'd be interested in this design. I'd try and find a way to break it. Haste and Menace on a 2/2 for 3. You have my attention. Whenever an artifact enters, you can return this from your graveyard to the battlefield. Oh, that's fun. I would love to play this with Metropolis, which has a red-black artifact sacrifice deck. And when this dies, you can just return it. Or no, yeah, when it dies, you can return it by having other artifacts enter play. This is a fun design. I like it a lot. Maybe this sees play in the sideboard of red decks against other low-to-the-ground decks. It's able to remove their blockers and get some burn in. Has a specific timing though, like after you've attacked before they pick blockers is when you want to do it. Nameless Drifter, I really like this design. When it dies, it leaves an enchantment that's going to deal 7 damage to something when the Nameless Drifter returns, which is just full of flavor. I love it a lot. I love that he's holding a katana and a gun. I'm obviously a sucker for those if you look at the arm tokens in Metropolis. Thundering Ant Sullivan has some interesting abilities, but they all seem fairly situational and probably isn't likely to see play in Constructed. Okay. It looks like there's quite a lot left of the set. There must be a lot of multicolored and artifact cards. We're going to start going through this a little bit faster. I want to keep these videos shorter than I tend to be making them. Ganzereg would be good for the Stompy deck, Green Stompy, which is apparently missing some competitive 3-drops, and there's no downside here. It's just a 4/4 reach for 3 that also ramps you when it attacks, so that's good. This can get quite good. It could be a 4/3 Death Touch once you hit Threshold. Oh, from your hand or graveyard onto the battlefield tapped. It's hard to mix ramp with aggressive strategies, but I like how this encourages you to attack with your Elvish Mystic equivalents, right? Instead of just sitting back with them. I don't see any progress or projects in green, which I think makes a lot of good flavor sense. This you can fight whenever you want, but you have to discard a card each turn you play this. So I don't know if it's at a good enough rate to justify the card disadvantage you'd be getting. Although being able to discard the cards allows you to make it indestructible more often. Maybe if the fight cost was a little bit less, I don't know. I like the design for it. I'm just not convinced it's strong enough to be really appealing and constructed. And I might be wrong with that. I haven't built a lot with green outside of the Boggles deck. Oh, this is fun. So you find a creature you want, and then it fights something else. So it's like, Court of Calling. Except at instant speed, there's no Convoke, obviously. It asks for a lot of mana. So it's probably safe. Like, it might not even see play, but I like the design, and if it were to see play, I wouldn't be unhappy. Huh. This is a fun design. It's like a green control finisher. You can always return it to your hand if you want, or choose to just make it bigger, which can, nullify its damage-based removal pretty easily. I like this design a lot. It's the same art as a card in High Noon, and possibly in Laredo. It's sweet card advantage, that's for sure. Maybe too good, I don't know. This is something I'd definitely play around with. Sacrifice permanents to return an artifact or sorcery. It's kind of weird. It was a weird common. Indestructible on their turn, has vigilance, equals the number of creatures you control. Yeah, that might get there. Those wide decks. Okay, situational counterspell. Okay, this can give you card advantage if you've been attacking. I think this is a fine design. I feel like a lot of the costing of these cards has been really well done. Nothing seems obviously broken, but a lot of it still feels pretty appealing. Draw 2 cards, and then you lose 2 life. Oh, it's instant speed draw 2. Okay, that seems fine. I don't know if this gets there. I don't know if you want to be paying 2 mana each turn just to put a counter on something. I think you want to use your mana in the decks that want this. Just curving out. This has interesting synergy with equipment. Can't be blocked. This is a fine card. I don't know if it gets there though. Dead Man Walking. Okay, this is a 1-drop for an aristocrat style deck. Oh, this is strong removal unless they sacrifice an artifact. And most of the time they're not going to have artifacts, so this is probably really good and would see play as creature or planeswalker removal. Okay, so some more finding of artifacts. It's a 3-mana 1/4 though. I don't know if that's quite good enough. I know I complained about not having control over your project counters, but I have noticed a lot of designs that help you put counters on them. They do seem to be focused more for limited than constructed though. Duelist Defiance helps you do more damage to things that get double blocked. You can just wipe them all out. Cast this from your graveyard. Whoa. Activated or triggered ability that targets you or permanent you control. Huh. It's very situational, but being able to cast it from your graveyard is amazing. And so this is a sideboard card, maybe main deck if there's a format that you're really worried about Planeswalker activations targeting you, Ravenous Chupacabra type effects, things that target players like mill triggers or things like that. Huh. This could be a 3-for-1. You know, against some token decks. That might be a good sideboard card. This is a tapper. It's a 1-mana. I mean, this is a solid tapper, whether you're playing projects or not. There might be something that is good to have in the format. I don't know. It's something we don't currently have, a solid 1-mana tapper. Obviously, they're just going to pay 2 life. But if you attacked with somebody, usually when you want to get rid of a creature or planeswalker, they're kind of preventing you from attacking. I've noticed several raid designs like that, where there's a lot of tension with that. The fact that you want to remove a blocker, but it's only really worth doing if you've already attacked. Oh, Hourless Whisperer is really interesting. Threshold card. Power and toughness each equal number of non-creature cards in your graveyard. So that could get pretty big. It reminds me of the Drakes that are in real standard right now. Except it doesn't have built-in evasion, right? Whoa. So for 3 mana instant speed, if they're tapped out, you can gain control of a creature. This is too strong. Yeah, this one is too strong. I would expect at least one more hybrid symbol there. So that the cheapest you can do this is 4 mana, instant speed mind control, which is still amazing, but they have to be tapped out. I think that would be the floor for what's acceptable for that design, in my opinion. Wow, so this is a milling project. I like that. Oh, gosh. I would slot this right into my Grixis mill deck. This goes along with the Janata 2-mana 0/4s that anytime you cast a non-creature spell, you mill them 4. Uh, this, however, you know, they do it at the beginning of each of their turns, and it's only one for a while. But once you start casting enough spells, enough cantrips and things, then you're milling them 7 each turn. Yeah, I would definitely play that in my mill deck, because it shares the same trigger as the other card that I'm using for mill. So that's a fun design. Again, maybe it's a little slow, but playing that on turn 1 would be awesome. Okay, that anti-artifact hate, so a good safety valve to have. Gives you bonus for killing other things. Oh, it's a project. Build around. I don't think projects are something you want to build around and focus on in a deck, because I think each individual project requires so much build around that they should be in separate decks, not all on the same deck. That just seems impossible and too slow to me. When you play this, you get a bird, and whenever they enter combat, they both get bigger, which is a fun design. I don't know if it's strong enough to be a mythic, but it's flavorful and cool. Okay, so some ramp, double ramp on a land. If you have ways to abuse untapping lands, this becomes good. This is just really weirdly costed, really weird card. You're able, when enters play, if you've already attacked, you can basically find another bear and play it for free, but you pay a bunch of life as you do so. This is an interesting card. You exile cards with different costs to find something that costs X or less, where X is the total number of different costs that you've exiled from outside the game. You can exile 0 cards to find lands from outside the game and put them onto the battlefield, which seems like the strongest, most obvious abuse. But then you can also have other tools in your sideboard that you can be able to find at a moment's notice. And it's not even just finding the tools, it's also card advantage. You just pay 1 and tap it, exile 7 different cards, and play a Karn from your sideboard or something like that. So this card's really strong and would definitely see play. It has some interesting deck building restrictions, but I wonder if the most powerful use is just having lands in your sideboard and just playing lands for free every turn. Well, not for free, you know, you have to tap your creature, and you can do it at instant speed though, which is nice. Wow, optimize. Find any instant or sorcery you want and put it into your hand. This is too strong, I'm almost positive. For 3 mana? Any instant or sorcery you want? Well, is it too strong? 4 mana is Diabolic Tutor. Doing it for 3? There's a lot of hybrid in this set. I'm not sure why, other than the frames are cool, and it can lead to more difficult design space, I guess. Okay, this is really good if you have exactly 13 cards in your graveyard. So an interesting build around. You probably want ways to exile cards from your graveyard on demand to make sure it doesn't get too high or too low. So you can self-mill and then exile down to exactly 13. And then you get to draw 7 cards. Cool. There's an aggressive creature that helps you self-mill, so I guess that goes in a threshold deck, which is looking more like a limited deck than constructed. Maybe some of the stronger pieces make it in with synergy with other sets, but I don't know. Next number of artifacts and enchantments. This works well with the civilized mechanic in Urshad. Oh, weird. This gives protection to your artifact such that when they would leave, instead you make a copy of it. And, it still leaves, but you still have the token copy. Wow. I mean, this would be really powerful with Metropolis, I do know that. If you have any artifact-based deck, this would be great with it. It gives so much protection to your artifacts. This helps you ramp big as long as you've attacked during the turn. This has some interesting combo potential with artifacts. Whenever an artifact enters the battlefield, you can activate one of its activated abilities without paying its cost. So if you think of really big artifacts that enter tapped and have expensive costs specifically, so you can't immediately do them, this combos with those. I'd be interested to see what you could abuse. Maybe artifacts that have enormous costs, like you have to sacrifice something or discard your hand. Oh, well, this probably doesn't deal damage easily, but it could be lots of card advantage from your graveyard. I like this design a lot. Destroy all creatures and exile all creature cards from all graveyards. Sweeper for black, sweeper for white. I'd play this in mono black control. It would be an upgrade over Final Verdict, which is the white sweeper of choice generally at 5 mana. And it would also be able to hate against Isemerge. I think this would be a positive force on the format. Oh, instant speed exile removal, but their controllers gain life equal to the toughness, you lose life equal to the power. This might be a useful tool if it weren't for the fact there was already better instant speed exile removal where they just, you give them a land as opposed to that huge swing in life, which is Wander the Unknown from Rakoa. Okay. Man, how many hybrid and multicolored cards are in this set? Yeah, this helps you continually get cards from your graveyard, creature cards, as long as you attack. So this would be good in a dredge deck. Non-creature artifact spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. That could see play in an artifact deck. I like that this gives a lot of support to artifacts. Oh, there's a combo piece. Untap each artifact you control, but then you have to sacrifice them all at the beginning of the next end step. Well, if you have the thing where if they would leave, you get a token instead, that cost isn't so awful. But why do you need to untap all your artifacts if you're doing some big combo something or the other? Which I don't know what it is, but that's probably a piece of it. If you would draw a card instead, exile the top card of each opponent's library, and you may put a progress counter. What? Oh, so this is really bad for you until you get up to 3. So you have to skip 3 draw steps. And then you can play the cards that you skipped drawing, and the cards that your opponents played. I just don't think that's good enough. It's not worth skipping 3 draw steps anyway. So this, if you don't tap anything, oh, this is fun. If you don't tap anything, you get a progress counter, and then you can play things as though they had flash. You can't do it the same turn you play this, because those things will be tapped. Yeah, I really like this design. That's fun. I appreciate that you can get the progress counter very quickly, also. This is like Knight of the White Orchid, except can be green also, and it doesn't have first strike. Oh, this is a weird thing. Yoshida Takumi, Rail Baron, 5 mana. Whenever a project enters, so that's a build around for projects, which I don't think is going to make it. This might see play, 1 mana 0/3 artifact. If you have any artifact synergies and are playing a slower game, and then you get to scry 1, so it's almost as good as Omen Speaker, except it costs 1 less and it's colorless. I know Scry 2 is significantly better than Scry 1, but almost the same body basically, and for cheaper. That's pretty good. Alright, we're in the artifacts now. Okay, you sacrifice other artifacts to make Big Iron bigger. It's kind of cool. Okay, I like this one. This progress is going to come along naturally. It's just a 3 mana rock, 3 mana rock that will eventually upgrade to something that can get untapped all the time. This just happens at each upkeep. I kind of think that all the projects want the same progress method of getting progress at the lower rarities, and then the build-arounds to have their own special kind, because as is, they all have to be evaluated completely differently, because the way that they progress is different for almost each one. So this gives you some cards. Well, it gives you 2 cards. Slowly. I could see that seeing play in decks that care about artifacts. This, anytime someone taps for mana, you get a bunch of mana that doesn't go away. So this is an artifact that gives you big mana for sure. Devise Dragon, give it flying and you can ramp it. Yeah, it's probably too clunky. Pay 5 mana to get 3 gold. It's okay. Oh, I just realized that gold combos with that that mythic prowess creature that when the artifact would leave. Oh, if it's a non-token artifact, never mind. Well, this would come back anyway. Combo with that, okay. Exile everything from all graveyards. Okay, so this is Graveyard Hate. We already have some of that in the format, but I guess more couldn't hurt. Exile 13 cards from your graveyard. Exile target permanent. I like this design. That's really fun. It rewards Threshold. Just self-milling. Yeah, I like this design a lot. Kingslayer's Edge. His Death Touch can only attack alone. That sounds epic. Whenever it attacks a player and isn't blocked, their life total becomes 1. Yeah, that's a cool design. I almost designed something very similar to that, actually. It's probably way too clunky, but I love that design. Maker's Eye is really fun. You just draw an additional card each turn for your 5 mana artifact, but it also can help a creature that you control get bigger. Mana Dynamo. So you could consider this a 2 mana rock that enters tapped. I don't think that's too strong for Custard, but it's something that you might see play in non-green decks that want some ramp, particularly if they can use synergy with artifacts. If anything, there might be too many different projects. Like, I think the set could benefit from simplifying the projects to the best designs, making them more easy to evaluate, and adding a different new mechanic and not just recycling raid, which I don't think is doing that much in the set right now. A lot of the designs just have a lot of internal tension with the fact that you want to use raid before you want to activate raid before you play them, and yet their effects are better before you attack. Stolen gadget. Oh, this is pretty strong. It's like 1 mana cycling, or it's ramp the following turn. This is an interesting cycle. Might be too good, I don't know. I assume it's a cycle. It'd be weird if it were only black. Transcontinental Railroad. Oh, you can win the game. You can put progress on other projects. I don't think that you really want a project deck. I think projects want to be the keystones of their own decks. This is probably a little clunky. You have to pay 48 mana to get there. Although I suppose with that one mythic that lets you just keep accruing mana anytime somebody taps a land, it might be possible. I don't know. It'd be something that would be interesting to try. But there's probably better and more impactful ways to use that amount of mana. 5 and tap to exile a permanent. Wow. This could be a really good control card. Something that you ramp up to, and then you just start exiling their stuff every turn. And then once you've exiled 5 things, you probably are close to winning because you've exiled 5 things with 1 card. But then you can play something for free, so you go find your finisher and play it. I could see this being strong. It's expensive enough, I'm not worried about it. Yeah, so the gadget cycle is real. I could see them seeing play, to be honest. Like, that gives you some good card flow and some ramp if you're patient. 6 aim counters. Whoa. City of Lights is crazy good. Being able to just reset your life total with a land. Project Synergy. Oh, so I think the land cycle enters tapped unless you control gold, which is a lot of internal synergy and not much synergy. Although I think Janata has gold tokens, unless it's treasure tokens on at least 1 legend. Destroy all non-basic, non-creature permanents you don't control. I find it weird that this is more expensive than the white one. The white one's always going to be good. The green one is situational, but it costs more. They skip through an untap step. Yeah, I don't think I'm a fan of those designs that have huge sweeping effects with no opportunity cost just because they're in your lands. I mean, you do lose the mana fixing, but they don't even enter tapped. You can sacrifice this to make a couple gold. That seems okay. That seems fair. Losing a land for 2 gold. Okay, so that's been Iron Horse. Really interesting flavor. A lot of interesting design choices. Projects are interesting. A lot of interesting designs. I like the threshold stuff. I like, just a lot of the individual designs that I've called out. A lot of interesting hybrid cards that, are pushed in different ways and could see play in various decks because of their hybrid costs. So that is my video review of Iron Horse, and I'll be reviewing the last 3 sets over the next couple days. So coming up next is Ruins of Doharum, then Scriptures of Urshad, and then Festoon are the last 3 sets that I haven't looked at all yet. I mean, I've looked at them, but I haven't done a video. Anyway, I hope this was helpful and can help inform your vote for the next set for custom standard, and thank you for watching.